And I've had an opportunity to grow in the Disney campaign, you know, developing, working with actors, actually having them play roles which they embrace. And I was thinking about Beckham riding the horse. I didn't, you know, he rears up in that horse, and we didn't tell his agent, you know, or his, apparently, I guess we needed insurance, but he wanted to rear up in that horse, you know, and there was like, you know, this billion-dollar, you know, soccer player, you know, like rearing up on this horse, because he wanted to own that role. He wanted to own that role. Scarlett Johansson wanted to own, Gordon reminded me that her mother said this morning that, her mother said the day of the shoot that Scarlett Johansson always wanted to be Cinderella, you know, so what am I trying to say? It is creativity in a bigger scope, but you hope to bring in people that are with you, and you know, and Disney. To me, being asked to do the Disney campaign was, you know, incredible. It's sort of it meant so much, you know, to do something, you know, like that and develop these storybook icons. I'm not making any sense.
I'm going to answer your question a little differently, because I didn't say this about yourself. You mentioned the science and the art of it. One of the things Annie won't even know to give credit to herself for is that if you give Annie a full brief of what you're trying to accomplish in terms of the strategy and what we want this image to convey, and give her the knowledge behind it, it will appear in the photograph. She will find it in the art. And it just has to do with having a good, honest, open dialogue with the artist to achieve what everyone wants to achieve. And it's always achieved because Annie is open-headed and open-hearted, and it always works that way.
I do research, you know, like for the Disney work, you know, on Cinderella, I didn't just look at Disney animated Cinderella or the Disney stories. I went back and looked at Grimm. You know, I looked at all the versions of Cinderella, and it's one of the most, you know, it's probably the most translated fairy tale in so many different versions, you know, in the world. And so that was all sort of feeding into, you know, where I finally came. And then, of course, I did sort of end back towards Disney, because he certainly had his point of view. But I did research on Walt Disney. You know, I was enamored with his genius, and I almost mourned his passing, because I thought it would have been interesting if he was alive today, what he would be doing. It can work, you know, any way. I do find that the attention span is not that long. I think they should be short. You know, maybe 5 times a year you find someone that you wish you could spend some more time with, and then it's worth, you know, doing that. I do believe as I get older, and it could have something to do with age, that the sessions should be shorter, and I do a lot of work up front so that the subject can come in and go out. Now, I might be losing something here, but on the other hand, the idea that you're going to get the soul of the sitter in 15 minutes or something is garbage. You know, it's just, you know, not for what we're doing for, you know, for magazines. You know, you can't. You'll get something, you know, for sure, and it's always kind of interesting what you can get. It just depends. You know, you're not working alone. You're working with a subject. You're working. You know, you've engaged them, but I do find something I haven't really capitalized on enough. I do find that as soon as I tell them it's over, they suddenly become themselves, and they look amazing. And I should be starting the session then, you know. But if there's another big secret that I have, which I certainly don't mind sharing with anyone, and I've said this before, is that I'm not afraid to go back. And I know everyone thinks you can't go back, but you can. I mean, it's like, you know, it's like, you know, you just say, you know, this is great, but I had this other idea. And that's, I don't know how many times you go to take a picture, portrait session, and you think, as you're leaving it, what you should have done, what you wish you had done, you have a better idea, or you wish you had. So sometimes if I believe strongly in it, I'll actually, sometimes even in the middle of the shoot, I'll be saying, you know, what are you doing next Tuesday, by the way? You know, I'll go back, you know.